It should come to no surprise that I am an ardent follower of SpaceX and Elon Musk's other startup companies. As such, I primarily follow a handful of YouTube channels concentrating on SpaceX and the myriad new launch providers cropping up in the last 20 years. Only a handful of channels are needed to keep current on developments without the repetitive or sensationalist wannabes. What has become the predominant launch provider over the last 10 years is worth noting. Over half the satellites in orbit today belong to SpaceX. Aficionados are in awe of the incredible progress they have made in reshaping an entire industry. In fact, I don't think there ever was a space industry as such. Previously, the production of rockets and space vehicles has been almost entirely controlled by governments, as they have the deepest pockets. Crime does pay in their case. Though they are called private companies, the vast majority of contractors in the past could hardly think of space as a viable market. The incredible amount of investment required could easily break a company without government support. I've taken a few shots over such criticism by some claiming that SpaceX could not survive without government contracts. They do take a fair amount of government money, but would they continue on without it? Elon Musk's stated goal is to establish a viable human settlement on Mars, and he has the means at his disposal. More important, he's demonstrated his skills in assembling a highly dedicated workforce, which is equally crucial. This appears to be true across each of his ventures, from Tesla to the Boring Company to SpaceX, Starlink, and hopefully Twitter. Jeff Bezos has command of resources equaling Elon Musk, but has not been able to transfer the success of Amazon to Blue Origin, which began before SpaceX. His company has yet to put a payload into orbit, while SpaceX has successfully landed a booster for the 100th time. It is a shame we do not have a few more Elon Musks around. His goal appears to be to reinvent, reshape, and completely shift the paradigm in tired old industries, or to disrupt them with new ones. This is certainly true with Tesla, as the number of new automobile manufacturers popping up over the last century are as rare as hen's teeth. Manufacturers such as America's Big Three were and still are protected as too big to fail. All the propping up with government funds, import restrictions, and regulations have done little to revitalize them. This is an area where Musk has taken advantage of the ill-advised government policy of subsidizing electric cars. Tesla would not be as valuable as it is without them. This is where I differ with Musk, though his true motives may not be apparent. Electric cars are not the answer to anything, as there is no CO2 emergency. His genius may be in reading the trends in socioeconomic idiocy and riding the wave for what it's worth. In learning to mass produce electric cars using vertical integration, Tesla also manufactures the batteries. In-house, they know the cost-benefit analysis of energy density, assembly methods, material sourcing, etc. On Earth, these large battery banks are created for cars and power systems, but Mars requirements will be the same. Mars will need energy storage vehicles with decent range and performance under harsh conditions, with light weight. Already, Tesla plans to substitute the more costly and difficult to source metals of lithium and cobalt with metals likely to be found on Mars in greater abundance. Going to Mars is about much more than rockets. It is about living off the land once people are there. We have only to examine the industries Mr. Musk has waded into, successfully in my view. Tesla is also on the cutting edge where it comes to artificial intelligence. The application most of us hear about is autonomous vehicles. Personally, I'm not a fan of this, at least on Earth. I need more convincing. However, the number of obstacles and other drivers are far less on the red planet. Long before humans gain a foothold on this neighboring world, a significant amount of preparation will be required. Initially, that will be the establishment of human habitats, prospecting for water, generation of oxygen, nitrogen, argon, thorium, methane, acetylene, and other useful compounds. Other requirements include the processing of regolith into structures and growing medium for food crops. All of the vehicles and machines required must be wholly or completely autonomous. A significant amount of preparation is needed before humans set foot on Mars. Even with a handful of pioneers present at the beginning, they won't be able to control every activity. Recently, Elon Musk has indicated he will found a new artificial intelligence provider to counter ChatGPT. Though he was an original investor in OpenAI, the parent nonprofit entity developing ChatGPT, increased investment from Microsoft has given cause for alarm. Despite the name OpenAI, ChatGPT will not be open source. This AI technology has huge potential for both good and bad, and I've discussed it partially in the podcast Artificial Intelligence. Though artificial intelligence via software implemented neural networks is not the be all and end all of AI, it is extremely powerful. These networks function through a long process of comparison phases. They begin with a learning phase, such as one outlined in the previous podcast. Given the vast amount of photographs provided to the algorithm, it fine-tunes itself to identify, say, birds, dogs, or octopuses. The same principle can be used with nearly any type of data in digital form in sufficient amounts. This includes stock trades, votes, commodity prices, etc. Autonomous rigs on Mars will spend much of their time taking data and categorizing it for their learning algorithms. Unlike most folks in the space game, Musk understands that nothing is a true industry unless operations, both production and missions, can be scaled efficiently. In 2022, they managed greater than one launch per week, with plans to double that in 2023. SpaceX is now producing one Raptor 2 rocket engine per day. From what the YouTube channels can observe over the back fence in Boca Chica, we've seen a development cycle far in advance of anything known before. Some ships and boosters are scrapped before they are ever tested. This may seem wasteful, but the tremendous progress made on a compressed timeline makes it worthwhile. As they have progressed, design complexity is being reduced. A favorite Elon quote of mine is, "The best part is no part." This flies in the face of government development programs. There are several examples of cost cutting for Starship, going with stainless steel over composites, elimination of landing legs, autogenous pressurization, electric rather than hydraulic gimbal control, elimination of most startup pressurization tanks, welding versus flanges in the Raptor, and unneeded degrees of freedom for the grid fins are just a start. Moving forward, such changes allow greater payloads or fuel capacity, making the Starship more versatile. Though I was disappointed in tabling the sea launch platforms, Phobos and Deimos, SpaceX has too many plates spinning to pursue it at this time. Or perhaps the old oil rigs were just not the way to go. SpaceX would do best to distance themselves from government in the long run. Launching from international waters is a great way to reduce bureaucratic interference. As the number one launch provider catering to both the War Department and NASA, that may not be an option for some time. More customers keeps the launch cadence high. Satellites will be needed for Mars as well as Starlink and provide the lion's share of forward financing and independence. Sophisticated life support is required for both the trip to Mars and for living on or under the surface. Development of the Crew Dragon is a large feather in their cap. It is the first space vehicle approved by the FAA, meaning they feel it to be as safe as any airliner. With a contract partially funding the human landing system for the moon, work on a Starship life support system is buttressed. With the way that Artemis is proceeding, I predict SpaceX will be providing more than just one lander. Such systems able to transport both people and equipment are well in line with SpaceX goals. Another area where innovation counts is tunneling. A stated goal for the Boring Company is to develop machines which dig 10 times faster than the industry standard. I believe a factor of 3 times has already been attained. Mars has an atmosphere less than 1% that of Earth at sea level and a very weak magnetosphere. Pioneers will need protection from a moderately high bombardment of cosmic radiation and particles. There are many plans for 3D printing and elaborate structures made of ice, and no doubt these will be used. The most expedient method to shield humans from the onslaught could simply be digging in. A few meters of regolith will drastically reduce the radiation dosage. Lava tubes have been proposed, but may not always be convenient. An advancement of the Boring Company is a machine capable of digging down from the surface. Most boring machines must have a pit dug into which they are lowered and do not dig at an angle, either decline or incline. Often these machines are simply left underground at the end of the project rather than pay to lift them out again. As with Starship, the Boring Company strives for reusability. The size of the typical machine appears to be compatible with the payload bay of either Falcon 9 or Starship. It is unclear where Neuralink fits into a Musk dream of Mars settlement. One might imagine advanced links between the human brain and computers to be complementary to AI efforts. As stated, AI will still have limitations. No one knows how to create an artificial brain, but an enhanced brain could be invaluable on Mars. Such an environment, relying on instruments working beyond the human senses, will be indispensable. Such items as radiation detectors, sensors for identifying minerals, trace gases, or other resources will be needed. In pressure suits, humans will not be relying on their senses as they do on Earth, and will require an interface with any apparatus working in the vacuum. In the unfortunate case of debilitating injury, pioneers will even be more pressed in responding to day-to-day personal as well as other tasks. Functions may be found for which there is no human analog. Years ago, I came across a program discussing how the Air Force was looking into flight control systems guided only by thought. External headgear with sensors picked up on brainwave patterns of the wearer. A pilot sat in a simulator and could control functions like roll, pitch, and yaw with his mind. He said it was like learning to use a third arm. This was at least 30 years ago. We are unable to control robots on Mars in real time due to the vast distance it takes for signals to cross between Earth and back. This could be a delay of anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes or more, depending on where we are in our orbits. Settlers on Mars with satellites will not be hampered in this way. Many dangerous situations could be avoided by using robots guided by humans, either by joystick or brain implants. From what I've gleaned thus far, we could use more entrepreneurs like Elon Musk. He has the vision, the resources, and talent to guide his truly monumental effort in getting humans to Mars. Like anyone in the spotlight, his company gets far more praise or criticism than it deserves. By opening up Twitter and vowing to compete against ChatGPT and Google, his heart seems to be in the right place. I have to laugh at those who complain of not knowing the next move for SpaceX, when most of what they do is on display for the whole world. We don't have such a clear view into Blue Origin, Sierra Nevada, Rocket Lab, Astra, or Relativity Space. These are all private companies who don't have to show us anything. Even NASA does not tell us all the details for their operations, and they survive on funds stolen from all. If nothing less, SpaceX serves as an existence proof That is, they've shown how many things are possible when the right approach and willingness to take risks is used. NASA should have been in SpaceX's position over 30 years ago, but chose to squander public money on the space shuttle program. When asked how long it would take to develop a reusable booster, as SpaceX has done, they said it would take 10 years and $32 billion. It's taken them that long just to build Artemis. It took SpaceX 7 years and less than $3 billion for the development of reusable rockets. I suspect SpaceX will show up NASA once again in developing their own spacesuits. With the flight suit a success with astronauts, their EVA suit is in the pipeline. No doubt Sierra Nevada Rocket Lab, Relativity Space, and others have been inspired. Several companies have been launched by former SpaceX engineers. So let's hope this pursuit of excellence is a new and lasting trend.